Good afternoon, good morning. Uh, just moving it from that script, this screen to the other screen. Putting the words up there. And we're going to get straight into it. Sabotage. Because I think this is something that's been pretty relevant to some of our ladies inside the NYM club. And they've been saying, I'm just, for some reason, sabotage. And I wanted to kind of talk about different types of saboteur that you can be, and just kind of get a basic understanding. Because basically, with self sabotage, there's some research that's come out with basically called positive intelligence quotient, and it's a measure of mental fitness. And we talk about mental fitness in the sense, in similar way to how we would talk about physical fitness, right? It's the percentage. So and I'll compare those two. I'll come back in a second. But if we compare like mental fitness, what you think of is really, you should think of, is the percentage of time the mind is being positive, right? Allowing it to flourish, allowing it to grow. And this is a big factor in allowing you to reach your full potential, your eudaimon, your inner daimon, the ideal version of yourself. Now, what PQ does is it measures the strength of an individual's positive mental muscles. And this is called SAGE. So SAGE is like wisdom versus the negative, which is the saboteur. Now, the self-command muscle is the ability an individual has to boost their SAGE and dampen their saboteur. Right now, this is research coming from Shamin, and he's brilliant. I'll talk more about him in a bit. But basically, if you think of physical fitness in terms of enduring physical activity with little effort or like negative impact involved, you're basically, if you're not physically fit, then you will experience the physical stress with minimal physical activity. If you're not fit, walking 10,000 steps a day is going to be really difficult. Just starting to walk 2,000, you'll see a lot of stress because you're not fit. All right. So this is the analogy basically. If you apply it to mental fitness, if you're not mentally fit, you might experience mental stress easier. Right. It can come in the form of depression, anxiety, frustration, anger, and it's obviously going to impact your education. It's going to impact your work, your family, relationships, social interactions in general, and just like playtime, recreation. Like basically this psychologist, describes saboteurs as they're just habitual mind patterns, and they're reacting to challenges, and they're generating negative emotions. Hence the word saboteur. So you flounder basically instead of flourish. You might experience stress. You might experience disappointment, regret, anger, guilt, shame, worry. Like the antagonist to the saboteurs is the sage. So we need to lift that sage, dampen our saboteur. Now, the mental fitness is, well, it's how we tackle that is through positive emotions, and it might be empathy, gratitude, it might be creativity, it might be curiosity, self-confidence, it might be clarity, and it definitely is action. I know that. Now, I want to talk about the 10 types of internal saboteurs, because they reside in different parts of the brain, and especially the sage and the saboteurs, they reside in different parts. Now, the good news is that they're not, the sage or the saboteurs are not static. They're not fixed for life. It can be changed, it can be weakened, it can be strengthened, you can boost the sage. And I'm going to give you a few exercises later on that will help you make this happen, because not everybody is affected by all of the 10 types of saboteurs at the same time and in the same way. You're going to go, oh my gosh, that one is me. And then you'll hear another one, but that is also me all the time. So there's I'm going to explain them to you, and I'd just like to know in the comment section which one you feel is more like you. Basically 10 internal saboteurs. there's the number one is the judge, and it's often described as the universal saboteur. The judge is probably the most common in our experience, one of the most common in our experience, and it is the judge basically beats you up over repeated mistakes. It warns you about kind of future risks. It causes you to worry. It's easily obsessed, and it's really fixated on negativity. And basically, the judge is the enemy, right? It can trigger other saboteurs and cause unnecessary stress, ultimately reducing overall affecting us in work, overall affecting us in your weight loss, overall affecting us in relationships, just not being the person you want to be. So imagine the judges in the courtroom and all the barristers and stuff are other saboteurs, and he or she, whatever name you want to call the judge, has the ability to impact other saboteurs. Then we have the victim. You know, the victim. Whenever I hear victim, I think of op veritas humanis. I think that's Latin. I don't know. But Viola told me about it, and it's basically just being the victim. The victim doesn't feel accepted in this instance. The saboteur, it tries to attract affection through attention. So it focuses on a lot of painful internal feelings, and if there's any sort of criticism, it withdraws, right? And the victim kind of receives this attention through emotional problems, where it's poor temperament, sullen behaviour. Think of a little kid that can't get its own way, right? Often with this saboteur, can feel quite isolated, quite sad, abandoned, frustrated, guilty. But I'd like to know if any of you are kind of experiencing this, whether it's daily, whether it's just sometimes that kind of saboteur creeps in. There is the people pleaser, or the pleaser, tries to please everyone, right? Tries to get affection, acceptance from others by helping others. A lot of people we found, maybe this one, always putting others' emotional needs above themselves, right? Pleases, it flatters, it rescues, and it loses sight of its own wants, desires, and it becomes resentful, right? So this is what we're trying to avoid. This people pleaser is scared to say no to people, so it has a tendency to want to be liked by others, and it does so indirectly by, hey, if I am liked by them, they'll reciprocate. It's not always the case, but they'll kind of go out of their way to help people, and forget about themselves, really. Number 4 is restless saboteur. Looks for excitement from so many different activities. Doesn't want to be, just wants to be really easily distracted. It bounces from unpleasant feeling to a particular new stimulation. It's an impatient mind. It is basically, it's avoiding any sort of real focus on the issues that they have, or the relationships that they have, the problems that they have. And it provides, doing this shifting, basically burying your head in the sand, allows this saboteur to remove you from the situation. Burying your head in the sand, it escapes from anxiety, or it escapes from pain, and it escapes from just a need to not want to deal with whatever is in front, right? There is the hypervigilant, and the hypervigilant saboteur shows just fear constantly. Anxiety about danger, it worries about things that might go wrong, it's self-doubt, it's about worrying about what others are going to think, right? And it's always, hypervigilant saboteur is suspicious of what others may be up to, right? It has to have these rules and these procedures and the authorities, and that is how it gets reassurance. They believe that it's full of danger, life is full of danger, whatever it is that they're going through. So, I mean, I'm keen to see what patterns you're starting to notice as I'm talking through these, because number 6 is the hyperachiever. Now, the hyperachiever basically seeks self-respect and validation from a level of performance. Now, this would be an example of this when you're younger is if you're ever into high-level sports, you're constantly doing this particular sport, even if you're not passionate about it anymore, because mother, father, there's a bond there, and you're saying, hey, and they're going, oh my God, I'm so proud of them. They're pushing you, pushing you, pushing you. This is the hyperachiever saboteur. It's just like a workaholic streak. It's goal orientated, and it loses touch with so many of its own emotional needs, and relationships are quite fragmented. It kind of adapts that personality to impress others, right? Rather than looking inward and go, hey, what's most important? Well, the most important is I want to feel worthy, right? So what it does is it creates the success outside in the sporting arena or work arena, and that's how it feels its level of worthiness, because obviously they get a validation from the particular mother or father in that instance. So you might be able to feel this too, right? But the problem is with this is it inhibits your ability to connect on a deeper level with others, and so if that's a mainstay, that's something that we need to address with positive thinking. I think that there's quite a few that are quite common, and some that maybe you're like, that's definitely not me. Hyper rational is one that we don't see much of. Hyper rational saboteur is basically processes everything so rationally. It's a loss of focus. It's like insights. There's a lot of knowledge and understanding is valued most in this saboteur, but it analyzes rather than experiences the feeling. So it analyzes the feeling, doesn't experience it. And it's just a survival mechanism. It escapes into order and just rational thinking. So this kind of saboteur is something that I've never really experienced myself or with individuals that we've coached. This next one, for sure, the controller. The saboteur has like an anxiety-based urge to take charge, and it wants to be in control of all situations, of all people's actions, and it won't have it any other way, right? It pushes people beyond their comfort zone. It tries to take control of. It's willful. It's confrontational. And a lot of their communication can be quite angry and or expressed in an angry way, whether it's meant that way, but it's definitely critical. So if this controller saboteur feels hurt or rejected, you won't ever know about it, right? But the controller does get results, right? They're temporary, and they're the cost of others feeling like they're being controlled, feeling like they're being manipulated, and feeling like they're being, and those other individuals will feel resentful off the back of that. The last two, there's the stickler. The stickler is a common one, in my opinion. The stickler is a perfectionist and has a need to keep things in order and organized. It's really critical of itself and others, to be honest. But the stickler requires so much self-control. It has these phenomenally high standards, and it needs to be methodical, right? So there's this just constant frustration that it's never perfect, right? They don't really deal with change particularly well, especially if someone's bringing a different style of. We've experienced this in our coaching. Like, there's some people say, "I just don't like to be told what to do." All right, and there's an inflexibility to deal with that change and the different style of coaching that one might bring, and then that's difficult for that person, because they're a perfectionist and like, I know exactly what I need to do. I need to do this, and this. This needs to be perfect. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen. If it's not perfect, I'm not doing it. And then there's the avoider, probably tied in with the judge, one of the most common. Just avoids focusing on the pleasant and the positives in life, and it avoids all the difficult stuff, stuff that puts you out of the comfort zone. It definitely prefers comfort over discomfort, and it procrastinates when tasks are not particularly pleasant. So this one is interesting because what this does is this saboteur suppresses a lot of its anger and resentment, and expresses rather than actually expressing the emotion. Now they can feel out, they can feel once that saboteur has disappeared, they can kind of fill that gap, and the emotions will be just flooding out. But it's interesting because the this is probably one that we do see a lot of people who suffer from anxiety do have this saboteur. They avoid any sort of activity or event that could reinforce their bottom line, which is their bottom line is something that they believe to be true, which is I'm not worthy, I'm fat, something like that. Whether it's true or not, this individual believes it, and they avoid the situation. For example, going to the park. I'm not going to this social event on the weekend because I'm fat, you know, and this is a bottom line that an individual may carry, and they just reinforce that by not going to the party because they believe everyone's going to look at them because they're 20 kilos overweight, when in actual fact, that's probably not the case. Even if the individual is overweight, they're probably just they think that the eyes are just prying on them, for the whole time. So like this is one that this is a common one. Avoid it and judge are probably the two of the most common ones. But the whole point of mental fitness is to actually lift up the stage, lift up the positive thinking, lift up the growth mindset, and weaken the saboteurs, dampen them. We all have them. We all have them. And I did want to give you a kind of few exercises because you've all heard of. I always like to give you some action on this, but you've all heard of gratitude stuff. It's so simple, but like if you're really struggling, this is something that you must do. And the simple one is just write down 3 things that you're super grateful for each day. If they're small, fantastic. It could be just the meal you ate. It could be the sun here in Valencia. It could be the beautiful soundtrack you listen to. It could be I've got to have a little dance with my partner. It shows you to be grateful for the small things, and it just gives that little nudge to your brain a positive shift. Right, you start to see the world slightly differently, and obviously that aggregates. It's like a domino effect that will slowly, if you keep practicing that, you'll get a whole new worldview each day. You'll fight against that negative bias that you have, and you'll draw in and notice all the positive aspects of your day. Cuddles with your dog, breakfast with your partner. These are amazing things. Number 2 is set small goals with particular boundaries and reward yourself for those. Because often, like, we have inside the MWM Club, we have the goals at the start of the day, right? We have particular start and finish times, I hope. We have these 6 non-negotiables. All right? And you should, once you've done those, reward yourself with something. For example, if you've done your meditation in the morning, right? Reward yourself after the meditation with a 5-minute coffee break, doing whatever you want to do, right? Because what these rewards do is they ensure you work you do the stuff that's necessary, or you do the work that's necessary in a productive, effective, efficient manner. But it teaches your brain that, hey, you are going to be rewarded for making that positive choice. If it's you do all these 6 non-negotiables and then you get to spend an hour watching Netflix, you've earned that time watching Netflix. It's like you've made all these positive choices. You now get to watch your favorite series. Over this time, this is going to help improve your mindset. So watch the development of your brain's toned figure as it becomes stronger and fitter, and that mental fitness improves. The last one is a kindness tool. I think random acts of kindness are super cool. They're underutilized in this day and age, and it just brings positive mental and physical health gains to the actual giver. One of the ways you can do this is I did it the other day. I bought a coffee for a random person, whoever was next in line. They don't know it was me. Obviously, I feel good. But this is one thing you can do. It could be pay a compliment to 3 separate people in a day at work. It could be writing a thank you note to someone someone you care about, someone at work. Just writing a simple card and just saying, hey, thinking about you. Hope everything's okay with the operation, whatever, or whatever's going on. It doesn't have to be anything major. It's just a kindness tool, random act of kindness. Just smiling at strangers as well, picking up litter, throwing it in the bin, taking flowers to a family member that you haven't seen for ages, donating clothes to unwanted clothes to charity. These are tools that we should be using daily in our practice. We all self sabotage to varying degrees, and it's sometimes it can be so automatic that we don't actually realize we're doing it. But when this destructive thinking continues, it causes us to kind of flounder, and it draws us further into the abyss, further into um, this negative space, and just constant feelings of self defeat. So I don't need to worry, because it's not all is not lost. It sounds dire, but it's not lost. As I'm talking now, as this live demonstrates, it's very easy to retrain our brains and strengthen positive thinking. And it starts now. It starts now. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want you to take home today, is that I'd like to know which saboteur you identify. You have. Is it number one? Is it number seven? Is it the judge? Is it the stickler? What is it? Keen to see the comment section in that. But other than that, here it is: the 10 types of internal saboteurs: the judge, the victim, pleaser, restless, hypervigilant, hyperachiever, hyper-rational, controller, stickler, and avoider. Awesome. If anyone wants this, just reach out. I'm happy to flick that through to you, the JPEG. Hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the week, and we'll speak to you soon. Well, see ya.